This trash doesn't belong in my bank. Janet Crawford's hand slammed down hard, sending $50,000 exploding across the marble floor. Bills spiraled through the air, some landing near customers' feet, others sliding under chairs. Marcus Williams stood frozen. 34 years old, navy suit pressed but simple. Just a man watching his restaurant profits scattered like garbage across pristine white marble. Crawl for it. Janet's voice cut through the sudden silence. Every customer turned. Phones lifted. Go on. Marcus dropped to his knees without a word. His hands moved steadily, gathering each bill while dozens of eyes watched. No curse words, no threats. Just quiet dignity collecting his dignity from the floor. His phone vibrated. Board meeting 3:30 p.m. Have you ever been judged by appearance only to prove everyone catastrophically wrong? 15 minutes earlier. Marcus Williams pushed through the revolving glass doors of First National Bank at exactly 2:45 p.m. Downtown Chicago's financial district hummed with afternoon energy, but inside the marble-clad lobby, everything moved with hushed precision. He needed this deposit processed before the quarterly board meeting. $50,000 in cash from his 3 restaurant locations, all documented, all legal. The worn leather briefcase in his hand had carried similar amounts dozens of times before. The same briefcase that would soon reveal secrets worth $2.8 billion. Janet Crawford spotted him immediately from behind the manager's desk. 20 years with First National had taught her to profile customers within seconds. Simple navy suit, no visible jewelry, carrying cash in a scuffed briefcase. Her trained eye cataloged every detail as potential red flags. "Amy," she whispered to the nearest teller, her voice carrying practiced authority, "watch this one closely." Large cash transaction incoming. Protocol 7. 2 security guards shifted positions without being asked. They'd worked with Janet long enough to read her coded warnings. Mike positioned himself near the exit while Tony moved closer to the teller stations. The banking floor operated like a quiet theater. Elderly Mrs. Henderson looked up from her deposit slip, her decades of banking experience sensing the subtle change in atmosphere. Young professional Jake paused his mobile banking session, his lawyer instincts picking up tension. College student Maria pretended to check Instagram while angling her phone for a better view of the developing situation. Marcus approached the main counter with measured steps. His briefcase sat between them on the polished marble-worn leather exterior, concealing corporate documents that could destroy careers in minutes. The weight of acquisition papers pressed against his palm. "Good afternoon," he said quietly, his voice carrying the controlled confidence of someone accustomed to high-stakes negotiations. "I need to make a large cash deposit before 3:30. The time reference wasn't casual conversation. It was a deadline that would change everything. Janet's eyes narrowed immediately, her 20 years of banking experience kicking into overdrive. She'd heard those words before from suspicious characters trying to launder money through legitimate accounts. "How large are we talking?" Her voice dripped with barely concealed skepticism. She made no move to invite him to a private office, keeping the conversation deliberately public. $50,000. An audible scoff escaped her lips. "Sir, we'll need extensive verification for that amount. Where exactly did this money come from?" Each word carried accusatory weight designed to make him uncomfortable. Marcus remained calm, opening his briefcase with practiced ease. "Restaurant chain profits, fully documented." He produced a folder containing business licenses, tax receipts, and incorporation papers. 3 locations in the Chicago area. Janet barely glanced at the documentation, her attention focused instead on his appearance. Simple clothes, no designer labels, no flashy watch. Everything about him screamed illegitimate to her prejudiced perception. "These could easily be forged," she said, making air quotes around the word legitimate. "Cash businesses are inherently suspicious. Drug fronts, money laundering operations, we see it constantly." Other customers began reacting to the escalating tension. Mrs. Henderson shook her head disapprovingly, but her disapproval was directed at Janet's unprofessional behavior, not Marcus. Jake whispered to his companion, "This seems completely inappropriate." Maria had started recording discreetly, her journalism major instincts recognizing a story developing. Her phone captured every microaggression, every dismissive gesture. Sarah Martinez, the 18-year-old part-time teller, watched from her station with growing discomfort. She'd been live streaming innocuous bank content for her 200 followers, but this felt different. Wrong. She quietly adjusted her phone to capture the interaction. "I've banked here for 8 years, Marcus stated factually, his voice never rising. "Account number 4471-8829-2156. You can verify my history." Janet's response revealed the depth of her bias. Instead of checking his account immediately, she doubled down on her assumptions. Account numbers can be stolen. Identity theft is everywhere these days. The live stream counter on Sarah's phone quietly climbed, 847 viewers and growing. Someone had shared the stream to Twitter, where hashtag bank discrimination was beginning to trend in Chicago. Janet's microaggressions intensified with each passing minute. She stepped back whenever Marcus leaned forward to point at documentation, as if physical proximity posed a threat. After touching his papers, she conspicuously reached for hand sanitizer, making her disgust obvious. Her voice grew louder and slower, adopting the condescending tone typically reserved for children or the mentally impaired. "Do you understand our verification procedures, sir? They exist for everyone's protection." Security guards Mike and Tony moved closer, responding to Janet's subtle hand signals. Their presence wasn't lost on other customers, who began pulling out phones to document what looked increasingly like harassment. Jake, a corporate lawyer, approached the counter directly. "Excuse me, but this treatment seems completely inappropriate for a routine banking transaction." Janet waved him away dismissively. "Sir, please return to your own business. We're following standard protocols." Mrs. Henderson stood up from the waiting area, her voice carrying the authority of 3 decades as a loyal customer. "Young lady, I've banked here since before you were born." This behavior is disgraceful. Janet ignored the criticism completely, her focus laser-focused on humiliating Marcus. Around the banking floor, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Phones appeared in hands as customers began recording what looked like blatant discrimination. Marcus checked his watch. 3:10 p.m. 20 minutes until the board meeting that would determine the future of every employee in this building. His expression remained unreadable, but his eyes briefly focused on the briefcase containing documents that would soon scatter careers like the money about to hit the floor. "I'll give you 10 minutes to process this deposit," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying a strange certainty. "I have a very important meeting to attend." Janet's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "You don't make demands in my bank, sir. We'll take however long we need to properly investigate this suspicious transaction." As Marcus organized his documents, his briefcase opened slightly wider. First-class airline tickets became visible through the gap, along with a glimpse of gold corporate credit cards. A VIP lounge pass dangled from his keychain. The same briefcase Janet had dismissed as suspicious contained the lifestyle markers of extreme wealth. But Janet was too focused on her assumptions to notice. Her attention remained fixed on what she perceived as a threat to her authority, a challenge to the natural order she'd established in her branch. 10 minutes, Marcus repeated, his voice carrying an undertone that suggested consequences beyond her imagination. The money that would soon scatter across the marble floor represented more than business deposits. It was the final test of an institution about to change hands, conducted by the very man who would determine everyone's future. The money incident escalates. Janet Crawford raised her voice deliberately, ensuring every customer could hear her accusations. "Sir, I'm extremely uncomfortable with this transaction. The amount is highly suspicious, and your documentation appears questionable at best." Every eye in the bank turned toward the man still holding bills she had thrown on the floor. Marcus remained perfectly calm, methodically organizing the scattered money, each crisp bill a witness to her escalating arrogance. Sarah's live stream exploded with activity. The viewer counter jumped from 847 to 2,400 in minutes. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read. "This is straight discrimination. Call corporate now. Someone needs to record this." A viewer named @Chicago Activist shared the stream to Twitter with a caption that would change everything. "Live discrimination happening right now at First National downtown. The manager literally threw black man's money on the floor. This is 2025, not 1955. Within minutes, 847 retweets spread the story across the city. Instagram influencer at Social Justice Chicago noticed the growing buzz and went live herself, splitting her screen with Sarah's stream. Their combined audience hit 4,200 viewers as comments poured in from across Chicago and beyond. Meanwhile, at Channel 7 News, intern Kevin Martinez monitored trending topics as part of his daily routine. The hashtag bank discrimination caught his attention immediately. He alerted the assignment desk, and within minutes, a news van was dispatched to downtown. Another manager appeared, Kevin Santos, Janet's assistant manager and longtime enabler. "What's the problem here?" he asked, surveying the scene. Janet gestured dramatically at the money Marcus had rescued from the floor. "Suspicious cash deposit, possible fraud, and he's being aggressive about our timeline." Her voice carried the practiced authority of someone accustomed to being believed without question. The viral momentum was building beyond anyone's control. Local activist accounts began resharing the content, adding their own commentary about systemic banking discrimination. The story was spreading faster than wildfire, reaching audiences Janet Crawford never imagined would scrutinize her actions. Marcus observed the growing chaos with remarkable composure. The same digital mob that would soon celebrate his victory was already forming, drawn by the magnetic pull of injustice captured in real time. His briefcase sat quietly on the counter, its worn exterior hiding corporate documents that would soon scatter more than money. They would scatter careers. Security guards Mike and Tony approached with obvious reluctance. They'd worked enough discrimination cases to recognize the optics. But Janet's seniority demanded compliance. "Sir, we need you to step aside while we resolve this matter," Mike said, his voice notably gentler than Janet's harsh accusations. Marcus complied without resistance, checking his phone. 3:15 p.m. 15 minutes remained until the board meeting that would reshape everyone's future. "I've maintained an account here for 8 years," he stated with quiet authority. "Account 4471-8829-2156. My banking history speaks for itself." Kevin Santos reluctantly accessed the computer system. His face immediately changed as Marcus's account details populated the screen. Massive balance, pristine credit history, extensive corporate connections. He whispered urgently to Janet, but pride had already taken control. She doubled down with dangerous certainty. "Anyone can fake computer records these days. Identity theft is more sophisticated than ever." Jake, the corporate lawyer, had seen enough. He began recording openly, his LinkedIn profile lending credibility to his documentation. "This is textbook discrimination," he announced to his phone camera. "Manager threw customers' money on floor, now questioning 8-year banking relationship." His post would reach 15,000 legal professionals within an hour. Mrs. Henderson had called her daughter a partner at Morrison & Associates, one of Chicago's premier civil rights firms. "Honey, I'm witnessing discrimination that needs immediate legal attention. A young black man is being publicly humiliated at my bank." Maria continued streaming across 3 platforms simultaneously. Her Northwestern journalism students were sharing the content through university networks, reaching young activists primed to amplify social justice content. The digital ecosystem was creating something Janet hadn't anticipated: accountability in real time. Every dismissive gesture, every microaggression was being captured, analyzed, and broadcast to audiences increasingly outraged by what they witnessed. Combined live streams reached 6,800 viewers as someone managed to identify the specific bank branch and posted its address online. The Chicago Tribune's social media team noticed the trending hashtag and dispatched photographer Amanda Lane to capture whatever story was developing. Comments turned increasingly aggressive. "Boycott First National immediately." "This manager needs to be fired today." "They literally threw money at a black man." "Where's the regional management?" Corporate headquarters received its first emergency notification at 3:17 p.m. The PR crisis team scrambled to assess a situation that was spiraling beyond their control. Regional Vice President Patricia Williams got an urgent call about the money-throwing incident going viral. Black Twitter discovered the story and amplified it with devastating efficiency. Verified accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers began sharing the content. Hashtag First National Discrimination reached 15,000 tweets in 20 minutes, with the trending topic, "money thrown on floor," capturing national attention. Marcus watched the digital storm with fascinating detachment. The same bills Janet had scattered now represented so much more than $50,000. They symbolized systematic disrespect being challenged in real time. He opened his briefcase slightly, revealing glimpses of official documents bearing corporate seals and letterheads. The Meridian Capital Group logo was visible to anyone paying attention, but Janet remained focused on her performance of authority. The scene reached its crescendo when Janet snatched Marcus's identification card with theatrical flourish. "I'm reporting this as suspicious activity to federal authorities. You can wait outside while we investigate." "Ma'am, I'm conducting perfectly legal business. I'll wait inside," Marcus replied with unshakable calm. "Not in my bank," Janet declared, pointing dramatically toward the exit. "Pick up your scattered money and leave immediately." News Van Zeven pulled up outside just as the confrontation peaked. Reporter Jessica Martinez and cameraman David Lopez entered, drawn by the social media buzz surrounding a developing civil rights story. Marcus checked his watch one final time. 3:20 p.m. 10 minutes remained until destiny arrived. His hand rested casually on the briefcase, the same worn leather case Janet had dismissed. The same container holding documents that would determine her employment status in exactly 10 minutes. The room held its collective breath. 8 different phones were recording from various angles. 2 live streams broadcast to thousands. A professional news camera captured everything for the evening broadcast. Everyone was watching the quiet man with scattered money and hidden power, waiting for whatever would happen next. The bills on the marble floor had become much more than currency. They were evidence of a system about to face judgment, scattered by the very person who would soon hold absolute authority over everyone present. The countdown had begun, and nobody except Marcus Williams knew how completely the world was about to change. Continuing to reach my target. The viral content continued spreading as more news outlets picked up the story. TMZ's Chicago correspondent received a tip about an explosive bank discrimination video. Local radio stations began discussing the incident during afternoon drive time shows, asking listeners to weigh in on what they'd witnessed through social media. Janet remained oblivious to the mounting external pressure. Her focus stayed laser-fixed on maintaining control over what she perceived as a routine interaction with a suspicious customer. She had no idea that her actions were being dissected by legal experts, civil rights advocates, and corporate executives across multiple time zones. The same money she'd thrown in contempt was about to purchase her career's destruction, scattered by the very hands that had signed acquisition papers that morning. Marcus's quiet dignity in collecting those bills had created a visual metaphor more powerful than any speechwriter could craft, respect being literally picked up from the floor while authority figures looked down. The briefcase opens. Marcus Williams opened his briefcase fully, the same worn leather case Janet had sneered at moments before. He removed a single document with corporate letterhead clearly visible and placed it on the counter with deliberate precision. The same marble surface where his money had been scattered now held his power. Janet glanced dismissively at the document, then froze completely. Every trace of color drained from her face as the words registered in her brain. Document header read in bold letters, Meridian Capital Group, Acquisition Proposal. The subtitle underneath made her knees weak. First National Bank, Chicago Division. News reporter Jessica Martinez caught the document on camera, zooming in on the corporate letterhead and official seals. The same briefcase Janet had called suspicious contained bank ownership papers worth $2.8 billion. Sarah's live stream chat exploded with real-time reactions. Holy shit! Plot twist of the century. He owns the damn bank. The money thrower just got owned. Jake stopped recording mid-sentence, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Mrs. Henderson began clapping slowly, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. Maria whispered, Jesus Christ, before remembering thousands were watching her stream. Kevin Santos read over Janet's shoulder and stumbled backward into the wall. His face went pale as the implications hit him like a freight train. Marcus spoke with the same quiet authority he'd maintained throughout the humiliation. I'm Marcus Williams, managing partner of Meridian Capital Group. We completed the acquisition of First National's Chicago operations this morning. He produced a second document from the briefcase, a signed purchase agreement bearing that day's date stamp. The same morning you threw my money across your marble floor. Janet's hands began shaking uncontrollably. This can't be real. There's no way. Marcus pulled out his phone and speed-dialed a number he'd memorized. A conference call with your board of directors starts in exactly 5 minutes. I was depositing final compliance funds before we assumed operational control. His voice carried across the silent banking floor. The $50,000 you scattered like garbage was acquisition completion money. News reporter Jessica approached cautiously, her journalistic instincts recognizing the story of a lifetime unfolding. Sir, can you confirm you're the new owner of this bank? Marcus nodded calmly. Acquisition completed at 9:47 a.m. this morning. Due diligence included anonymous customer service evaluations across all branches. This was my final assessment. He paused, letting the weight sink in. She just failed the test in the most spectacular way possible. Kevin Santos frantically pulled up Google on his phone, searching Meridian Capital Group Marcus Williams. Results flooded the screen like an avalanche of reality. Forbes articles, Wall Street Journal features, Business Week covers. Forbes headline from 3 months ago. Young entrepreneur builds $847 million restaurant empire through strategic acquisitions. Wall Street Journal from last week. Meridian Capital targets regional banks for community investment focus. Chicago Business Journal from yesterday. Mystery buyer completes First National acquisition. His net worth, $847 million. Age, 34. The suspicious customer was worth more than the entire branch's annual revenue. The entire bank fell into stunned silence. Sarah's live stream hit 8,200 viewers as someone tagged CNN, NBC, and every major news outlet on social media. Security guards Mike and Tony stepped back in confusion, the same guards who had threatened the man who now controlled their paychecks. Other customers stood frozen, phones still recording. Janet gripped the counter for support, staring at the same surface where she'd swept his money with such contempt. CNN breaking news alerts began pinging across phones throughout the bank. Viral discrimination video involves major banking acquisition, developing story. Reporter Jessica whispered urgently to cameraman David. We're getting this exclusive. This is national news. The money scattered across the floor had taken on symbolic meaning far beyond its monetary value. Each bill represented a moment of humiliation that was about to transform into the most expensive mistake of Janet Crawford's career. Marcus observed the chaos with the same calm demeanor he'd shown while collecting money from the floor. The contrast was striking, from kneeling to gather scattered bills to standing as the owner of everything around him. There's more, he said quietly, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. "But let's start with your employment status." Janet's voice cracked like breaking glass. "What do you mean? You can't just—" "Board conference call begins in 4 minutes. They're waiting for my recommendation on staff retention." His eyes moved to the money still visible on the marble floor. "Especially staff who throw customers' deposits and order them to crawl." Kevin Santos tried desperately to salvage the situation. "Mr. Williams, surely we can resolve this matter privately." "Privacy ended when Ms. Crawford chose public humiliation," Marcus replied, gesturing toward the cameras, live streams, and growing crowd outside. "She made it public when she scattered money across the floor for everyone to see." News reporter Jessica leaned closer, recognizing she was witnessing something that would dominate news cycles for weeks. "Sir, what happens next?" Marcus checked his watch. 3:25 p.m. 5 minutes until the board call that would determine the future of 847 employees across 23 Chicago branches. "Justice," he said simply. "The same floor where my money was thrown will witness the consequences." The briefcase that had been dismissed as suspicious now sat open, revealing not just corporate documents, but the complete transformation of power dynamics. From scattered money to scattered careers, all captured in real time by audiences that had grown from dozens to thousands. The quiet man who had knelt to collect his dignity from the marble floor now stood ready to collect something far more valuable: accountability for systematic discrimination, delivered with the precision of a $2.8 billion acquisition and the weight of social media amplification. The countdown to consequences had reached its final moments. From humiliation to corporate power. Marcus Williams opened his laptop and connected to the bank's Wi-Fi with practiced efficiency. The screen displayed acquisition documents, financial projections, and legal frameworks that would reshape 847 careers in the next 5 minutes. First National's Chicago division generates $847 million annually across 23 branches, he began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to billion-dollar negotiations. Meridian Capital acquired 78% controlling interest as of 9:47 a.m. this morning. Every employment contract in this building now falls under our jurisdiction. He pulled up the bank's discrimination policy on his laptop screen, ensuring the news camera could capture every word. Section 4.2 explicitly prohibits bias-based service denial. Subsection C specifically addresses physical disrespect of customer property. His finger pointed to the relevant text. Throwing customer money on floors violates multiple federal banking regulations. Janet stammered through her shock. "I was following established protocol for suspicious transactions." "Your protocol cost this branch $50,000 in immediate deposits," Marcus replied without emotion. He gestured toward Sarah's live stream, where the viewer count had climbed to 9,400 and was still rising. "Your money-throwing protocol is now trending content across 6 different social media platforms." The scope of viral reach was staggering. Twitter analytics showed hashtag First National Discrimination had generated 73,000 mentions in 30 minutes. Facebook groups across Chicago were sharing the content. LinkedIn posts from legal professionals were dissecting the discrimination in real time. Instagram stories were spreading the incident to younger demographics who would remember this brand association forever. News reporter Jessica Martinez took notes frantically, recognizing that this wasn't just a discrimination story. This was a corporate drama worth billions of dollars, playing out in real time with legal and financial consequences that would ripple through the entire banking industry. Marcus continued his methodical destruction of Janet's position. "Beyond the personal deposit you scattered across this floor, Meridian had planned a $2.3 million quarterly business banking relationship with this specific branch. That partnership is now under serious review due to demonstrated bias in customer service." His laptop displayed a detailed spreadsheet that made Kevin Santos's face go pale. monthly deposits averaging $847,000, commercial loan originations worth $1.2 million, investment products totaling $450,000 in quarterly fees, and corporate credit facilities worth $3.8 million annually. Annual revenue impact to this single location, $4.7 million in lost business. Corporate reputation damage from viral discrimination content, financially incalculable. All because basic human respect was apparently too much to provide to a paying customer. The numbers weren't just theoretical. Marcus pulled up secondary analysis showing customer sentiment analysis from social media monitoring. Brand perception scores were plummeting in real time as the story spread. Other banking customers were already posting about closing accounts and switching to competitors. Kevin Santos attempted damage control with desperate urgency. "Mr. Williams, surely we can resolve this situation privately through proper channels." Marcus's response cut through the attempt like a blade. Privacy ended when Ms. Crawford chose public humiliation as her customer service strategy. He gestured toward the cameras, live streams, and crowd gathering outside. She created a public spectacle when she threw money on the floor. The consequences will be equally public. The legal precision of his next words revealed his Harvard law background, each citation delivered with prosecutorial accuracy. Fair Credit Reporting Act violation. Questioning legitimate business deposits without reasonable suspicion constitutes harassment. Penalty structure. $1,000 per violation, plus potential criminal charges for willful misconduct. He produced printed legal codes from his briefcase, the same briefcase Janet had dismissed as suspicious. Civil Rights Act Section 1981, differential treatment in commercial transactions based on racial characteristics. The physical act of throwing money demonstrates clear discriminatory intent. Penalty framework, unlimited punitive damages with no statutory caps. Bank Secrecy Act misapplication. Flagging legal deposits as suspicious without proper documentation represents a federal banking violation subject to regulatory review and potential criminal prosecution by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Additionally, Marcus continued, Illinois Human Rights Act Section 5102 specifically prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodation. Financial institutions fall under this statute. Violations carry civil penalties up to $100,000 per incident plus attorney fees. News reporter Jessica scribbled notes rapidly. Discrimination victim revealed as Harvard law graduate, millionaire business owner, and new bank owner with $2.8 billion acquisition power and encyclopedic knowledge of banking law. Marcus displayed an organizational chart covering his laptop screen. Your Chicago division employs 847 people across 23 branch locations. Every single position from tellers earning $38,000 annually to regional VPs earning $340,000 depends on maintaining smooth acquisition schedules. He paused for emphasis. Schedules that aren't disrupted by viral discrimination videos trending nationally. The human cost was becoming clear. Janet Crawford realized that her moment of power had potentially destroyed hundreds of livelihoods. Families who depended on bank salaries, mortgages that required steady employment. College tuition is funded by stable paychecks. The money she'd thrown in contempt could cost entire families their financial security. Regional Vice President Patricia Williams earns $340,000 per year. Branch managers average $89,000. Senior tellers start at $45,000. Junior staff begin at $38,000. All positions remain secure only if acquisition integration proceeds without legal complications or public relations disasters. Marcus pulled up additional financial projections. Stock price impact analysis shows potential 12 to 15% decline if discrimination lawsuit proceeds to court. Market capitalization loss. Approximately $240 million. Shareholder lawsuits become probable if management fails to act decisively. Customer retention analysis indicates 23% of current account holders would consider switching banks if discrimination goes unaddressed. Account closure projections suggest $127 million in deposit flight over 6 months. Commercial relationships at risk, $847 million in combined credit facilities. His phone rang at exactly 3:30 p.m., the precision timing deliberate and devastating. "Conference call with First National's Chicago Board of Directors," Marcus announced, activating speakerphone mode with theatrical precision. CEO Richard Davidson's voice filled the banking floor. "Marcus, we're ready to discuss transition leadership and staffing decisions for optimal integration success." Janet Crawford's face went ashen as she realized every word was being broadcast to corporate executives, to thousands of live stream viewers, to news cameras, and to the growing crowd of protesters gathering outside the building. "I recommend immediate management restructuring," Marcus stated with clinical precision. "Discrimination incidents have been documented via live stream, witnessed by thousands of viewers, and covered by major news outlets. Legal liability exposure is substantial and growing exponentially." CEO Davidson responded with obvious concern. "We monitored social media coverage throughout the afternoon." "What's the current severity assessment?" "Viral across all major platforms. Hashtag First National Discrimination is trending nationally with over 73,000 mentions in 30 minutes. CNN, NBC, Fox Business, and local news stations are on scene. The phrase, money-throwing banker, has become a trending topic with unlimited viral potential. A federal regulatory investigation is probable within 48 hours. Board member Susan Lane interjected with shareholder concerns. "What's the projected financial impact to corporate valuation?" Marcus consulted his spreadsheet with devastating accuracy. This branch location faces $4.7 million in annual revenue risk. Corporate reputation damage could affect all 127 branches nationwide, with an estimated impact of $240 million in market cap loss. The scattered money incident has potential to cost shareholder value in the hundreds of millions if not addressed immediately. However, he continued, immediate decisive action can demonstrate corporate commitment to equality and transform this crisis into a leadership opportunity. Swift justice shows zero tolerance for discrimination and can actually strengthen brand positioning. CEO Davidson's voice carried the weight of fiduciary responsibility. "What's your recommendation for immediate corrective action?" Marcus looked directly at Janet Crawford, who was gripping the counter where she'd thrown his money just 25 minutes earlier. "Terminate the perpetrators immediately. Make this a teachable moment for the entire banking industry." Board member Lane asked, "Effective immediately?" "Yes. Let the consequences be as public and swift as the discrimination itself." Justice delivered. CEO Richard Davidson's voice continued through the speakerphone with corporate finality. "Janet Crawford and Kevin Santos, your employment with First National Bank is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises." Janet collapsed into her chair like a marionette with severed strings. 20 years, my pension, my entire career." Her eyes remained fixed on the spot where she had thrown Marcus's money with such contempt. "All because of—" "Actions have consequences," Marcus replied without malice, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who had just transformed humiliation into justice. "You chose public degradation over professional service. The money you scattered across this floor bought this bank this morning." The irony was devastating. The same bills she had dismissed as dirty money represented clean acquisition capital worth $2.8 billion. Kevin Santos pleaded desperately, "Sir, I tried to de-escalate the situation. I attempted to help by questioning my documentation instead of addressing her discrimination," Marcus responded with clinical precision. "You watched her throw money at a customer and chose complicity over courage. Silence in the face of injustice makes you an accomplice. Security guards Mike and Tony found themselves in the surreal position of escorting out the very managers who had ordered them to harass Marcus minutes earlier. The reversal of power was complete and absolute. News cameras captured every moment of the termination as Sarah's live stream peaked at 12,400 viewers. Comments flooded in from across the country. Justice served. That's what karma looks like. From throne money to throne careers. Janet turned back one final time as security led her toward the exit. You should have just said who you were from the beginning. Marcus shook his head with measured disappointment. Every customer deserves respect regardless of their net worth or appearance. That's basic human decency. His voice carried across the silent banking floor. The money on this floor could have belonged to anyone earning an honest living. It was wrong, regardless of my identity. Mrs. Henderson approached Marcus with tears in her eyes. Young man, you handled that with such grace under pressure. Thank you for standing up to discrimination when you could have simply walked away. Jake shook Marcus's hand firmly. That was incredible leadership. You proved that intelligence and dignity defeat ignorance and prejudice every time. Even when she threw your money on the floor, you never lost your composure. Maria ended her multi-platform live stream with a powerful closing statement. And that's how you fight racism with strategy, not violence. From scattered money to scattered prejudices, we just witnessed justice in real time. Marcus addressed the live stream audience directly, understanding the teaching moment this incident represented. This incident reflects individual bias, not institutional policy moving forward. Meridian Capital is committed to ensuring equitable service for every customer who walks through these doors. Sarah, whose live stream had captured everything, asked permission to conduct a brief interview. Marcus agreed, recognizing the educational value. What message do you want people to take from what happened here today? Dignity isn't determined by designer clothing or visible wealth. Judge people by their character and actions, not their appearance or assumptions about their background. He gestured toward the marble floor where his money had been scattered. Also, document discrimination when you witness it. Social media creates accountability that traditional complaint processes often cannot match. The live stream audience had grown to 15,400 viewers as major news outlets requested immediate interviews. Marcus's story was spreading beyond Chicago, resonating with anyone who had experienced similar discrimination. News reporter Jessica Martinez asked the question on everyone's mind. Will you pursue legal action against the former employees? Education over litigation, Marcus replied thoughtfully. We'll implement systemic change instead of seeking personal revenge. The money she scattered will fund programs to prevent this from happening to anyone else. What about Ms. Crawford personally? She lost her career through her own choices and actions. That's enough consequence. The floor where she threw money is now under new management committed to dignity for all customers. Twitter exploded with support from across the political spectrum. This is real leadership. Grace under pressure. How to fight racism with class and intelligence. From floor money to bank owner American dream realized. CNN requested a live interview for the evening news. Marcus agreed, noting he would wear the same navy suit that had been judged so harshly an hour earlier. Marcus outlined immediate systematic reforms to the assembled news cameras and board conference calls, transforming the crisis into comprehensive change. First, all 23 Chicago branches will implement bias monitoring technology within 30 days. Customer service interactions will be recorded and analyzed monthly for discriminatory patterns using artificial intelligence detection software. No more money-throwing incidents will go unnoticed or unaddressed. He pulled up implementation timelines on his laptop. Second, mandatory unconscious bias training for all 847 employees, with monthly refresher sessions and quarterly assessments conducted by outside diversity consultants. Special focus on respectful handling of customer property and maintaining dignity in all interactions. Third, Customer Advocacy Hotline, providing direct escalation to corporate headquarters for discrimination complaints. 24/7 availability with independent ombudsman review and guaranteed response within 2 business hours. Fourth, Community investment program allocating $10 million annually for minority-owned business loans at preferred interest rates. The same $50,000 that was scattered across this floor becomes seed funding for this initiative, supporting restaurant owners, retail entrepreneurs, and professional service providers who might otherwise face lending discrimination. The symbolic transformation was powerful. Money thrown in contempt would now lift up other entrepreneurs facing similar prejudice. Fifth, diverse hiring initiative requiring management positions to include qualified minority candidates in final interview rounds. Goal: 40% minority representation in management roles by December 2026 with transparent progress reporting. CEO Davidson interjected through the speakerphone, "Cost estimates for implementing these comprehensive changes? $2.3 million annually across all Chicago branches," Marcus replied with prepared precision. "Compare that to potential lawsuit costs from discrimination incidents, which average $440,000 per case plus reputation damage and lost business. This represents profitable investment in human decency and legal compliance." He pulled up additional financial analysis. The viral money-throwing incident could have cost us hundreds of millions in lawsuits, regulatory fines, and customer flight. These preventive measures are cost-effective insurance against future discrimination and positions First National as an industry leader in inclusive banking. News reporter Jessica asked, "Will other banks adopt similar measures?" "Industry-wide change requires collective action," Marcus responded diplomatically. "We're sharing our bias monitoring protocols with the American Bankers Association and encouraging voluntary adoption. The money-throwing video becomes a teaching tool for the entire financial services industry." Marcus displayed proposed customer service standards that would be prominently posted in all branches. "We serve all customers with respect and professionalism. Discrimination has no place here. All customer property will be handled with dignity and care. Monthly mystery shoppers representing different demographics will test service quality across racial, economic, and social lines. Results will be published quarterly for full transparency and accountability." The comprehensive nature of the reforms impressed even skeptical observers. This wasn't performative corporate speak. These were measurable, enforceable changes with real budgets and timelines. Additionally, we're establishing the Marcus Williams Customer Dignity Fund, a $50,000 annual scholarship program for students studying civil rights law named after today's incident but focused on tomorrow's solutions. The irony was complete. The money thrown to humiliate would now fund the next generation of civil rights attorneys. Janet Crawford, being escorted through the lobby, turned back one final time. "You could have just told us who you were." Marcus's response carried the weight of systemic change. "I shouldn't have to prove my worth through wealth or status. Every customer deserves basic respect regardless of their net worth, appearance, or background." He gestured toward the spot where his money had fallen. "This wasn't about money, it was about human dignity. The bills you threw represented respect for every person who walks through those doors." Sarah's viewers flooded the comments with support. "Respect! This is how change happens. Share this everywhere. From scattered money to systematic justice." Mrs. Henderson told news reporter Jessica, "That young man showed more class in 1 hour than some people demonstrate in a lifetime. Even after she threw his money on the floor, he chose education over retaliation." Jake posted a LinkedIn update that would be shared 25,000 times. "Witnessed extraordinary leadership today. Marcus Williams proved that you fight injustice with intelligence, preparation, and unwavering dignity. The money scattered on that floor became the foundation for industry-wide reform. Long-term impact." 1 month later, Marcus Williams' story dominated headlines across multiple industries, but not in the way most viral incidents fade into digital memory. Forbes featured him on their cover with the headline, "The CEO Who Bought a Bank to Fight Racism," while Harvard Business Review published a case study titled "Discrimination as Systemic Business Risk." Is CNN's evening special, "Viral Video Leads to Industry Change," became their most-watched civil rights segment of 2025. The media coverage consistently referenced the money-throwing incident that transformed banking. Marcus wasn't celebrated merely as a wealthy businessman who got revenge, but as an advocate who converted personal humiliation into systematic change that would protect thousands of future customers from similar discrimination. His restaurant chain immediately implemented identical bias monitoring policies across all locations. Within weeks, Marcus was fielding consulting requests from Fortune 500 companies seeking to prevent their own viral discrimination disasters. He launched the nonprofit Dignity in Business Initiative, whose logo featured scattered papers transforming into organized documents, a visual metaphor for turning chaos into positive change. The money scattered across that marble floor had become a catalyst for transformation extending far beyond one Chicago bank branch. Janet Crawford's termination became required reading in business schools nationwide. Her case study, titled How Unconscious Bias Destroys Careers in the Social Media Age, appeared in management textbooks and MBA curriculum. Her LinkedIn profile, flooded with criticism from strangers, forced her to delete social media entirely. Job prospects remained limited as background checks consistently surfaced the viral video that destroyed her reputation. The money-throwing moment followed her career like a digital scarlet letter, a permanent reminder that actions have consequences in an interconnected world where accountability travels at light speed. Kevin Santos found new employment after completing extensive bias training and publishing a public apology on social media. His new position came with a 30% salary reduction and the constant need to address "the day I watched discrimination happen and said nothing." His experience became a cautionary tale about complicity, how silence in the face of injustice makes you an accomplice to discrimination. Sarah Martinez received a full journalism scholarship to Northwestern University, her live stream skills recognized by major media outlets who hired her as their youngest social media correspondent. Channel 7 News promoted her to weekend anchor, billing her as the live streamer who changed everything. Her documentation of injustice had launched a career in advocacy journalism. Mrs. Henderson wrote a letter to the Chicago Tribune that was published on the front page. In an age of corporate indifference, young people like Marcus Williams restore faith in principled leadership. Even when his money was scattered on that floor, his dignity remained intact and elevated. The ripple effects extended far beyond individual careers. The dignity in business movement that grew from Marcus's story influenced 1,247 companies to pledge discrimination-free service standards within 6 months. The hashtag became a rallying cry for customers documenting bias across industries: retail, hospitality, healthcare, and professional services. Banking executives recognized that the scattered money incident had fundamentally shifted customer expectations. The American Bankers Association created customer dignity standards based on Meridian's protocols, unofficially nicknamed the scattered money rules by industry insiders. New legislation emerged in Illinois, the Customer Civil Rights Act, making service discrimination legally actionable with specific penalties. The first violation example cited in the legal text: throwing customer money on floor during service interaction. Other states began drafting similar legislation, using Marcus's incident as the template for protecting consumer dignity. Marcus testified before the House Financial Services Committee wearing the same Navy suit from the bank incident, turning his outfit into a symbol of quiet dignity overcoming loud prejudice. "Respect isn't earned through wealth displays or designer clothing," he told Congress. "It's a human right that shouldn't depend on appearance or perceived economic status." The money scattered on that marble floor represented every customer's inherent dignity. Banking stocks initially dropped 8% following the viral video as investors feared widespread discrimination lawsuits. However, they recovered stronger as ESG funds increased positions in reformed banks, demonstrating measurable bias prevention. The money-throwing recovery became a case study in how swift justice creates long-term value. Federal regulators responded with new guidance on bias in banking services. The FDIC created mandatory discrimination reporting requirements, while the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency established post-scattered money protocols for investigating service discrimination complaints. First National's branch where the incident occurred became a corporate showcase location, featured in training videos and diversity conferences. Customer satisfaction scores increased 34% over 6 months, as the reforms attracted customers specifically seeking inclusive banking experiences. The story's moral resonated globally. Intelligence defeats ignorance, preparation conquers prejudice, and dignity trumps discrimination. Marcus proved that power isn't about flashing wealth. It's about strategic response to injustice using legal knowledge, business leverage, and unwavering composure. His quiet confidence inspired millions worldwide who shared their own discrimination experiences in response to his story. The lesson transcended banking. You don't need to be loud to be powerful, but you do need to be prepared. Documentation creates accountability. Social media amplifies justice when traditional complaint systems fail. Character matters more than clothing. Respect costs nothing but means everything. The money that hit the floor became the foundation for justice that lifted thousands of others facing similar discrimination. Have you witnessed discrimination in banks, stores, restaurants, or other businesses? Money thrown, dignity scattered, respect denied? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience matters and contributes to the growing movement for accountability. Subscribe to Our Black Stories for more accounts of quiet strength overcoming systematic bias, strategic thinking defeating prejudice, and dignity triumphing over discrimination. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that respect is universal, regardless of appearance or assumptions about economic status. From scattered money to scattered prejudices, change happens when we document injustice and demand better. Document discrimination when you witness it. Social media creates accountability that traditional corporate complaint systems often cannot provide. Together, we create lasting change through strategic action, thorough preparation, and unwavering commitment to human dignity. Your story counts. Your voice matters. Your dignity is non-negotiable. Never let anyone scatter your worth across the floor, and when they try, be ready to pick up more than money. Be ready to pick up justice.